In UK you will find graves that are caged in many cemeteries. But why is that? There is a story behind it, for which we have to go back 200 years. In the early 19th century, medical students in Great Britain required human bodies for their studies, so that they can study on it. This is known as dissection. In it, the human body is opened. You may be surprised to know that 200 years ago, medical students used to hold, dissect, and study corpses in the middle of huge theaters. And the theater was full of people watching the whole process, like a show. Now the question arises that where did the medical students get the dead bodies? Friends, at that time, it was a law in Britain that after the death of death row prisoners, their bodies were given to medical students. Death row prisoners were more afraid of their punishment than what would happen to their bodies after they died. However, medical students used their dead bodies. But friends, the problem started when the number of prisoners on death row in the UK began to decrease, which meant that now the bodies of medical students started to decrease, which was a big problem for them. The solution was that bodies were stolen in Britain. A person would have died in someone's house. His family would perform the last rites of this person, and they would bury his dead body in the grave while crying. But when these people came to his grave the next day, the grave was open, and the bodies disappeared from inside. People started stealing the bodies. These people used to find fresh graves and then take the dead out of the graves in the dark of night and sell them to medical colleges. They used to get good money for this work. It became a business in Britain 200 years ago. You may be surprised to know that it was not illegal, because the human body was not considered as someone's property. That is why there was no point in arresting such people, because the court used to leave them. The police were helpless and could not do anything. So you think what will happen to a person when the body of his loved one disappeared from the grave the next day? People were very worried. That's why they found some solutions for it. Some people even built watchtowers in the cemetery. There was always a guard present here, who was always watching over the cemetery. But some people had another idea. To protect the bodies of their loved ones from being stolen, some people began to cage the graves. Iron cages were made over the graves, so that no one can open these graves. Those who could not afford cages used to place heavy stones on top of the graves, that their loved one's body might be saved from being stolen. These are the same graves. They are called mortsafe. But guys, the people who steal the bodies did not stop here either. These people started stealing dead bodies from hospitals and sometimes even from people's houses. In 1828, there were more than 200 corpse thieves in the city of London alone, and the situation escalated from theft to murder. People were killed for their dead bodies. People in Britain were very scared. One such famous story is about two people, William Burke and William Hare. Both of them were very dangerous killers. These two were friends and worked as laborers in Scotland. There is a medical school in Scotland named Edinburgh Medical School. Both of them used to supply bodies to this school, but no one knew where these bodies were brought from. William Burke rented a room in his house to a man. The man died in that room and William sold his body, for which he got a lot of money, and from here the idea of selling dead bodies came to his mind. He, along with his friend William Hare, killed 16 people, just so that their dead bodies can be sold in medical colleges. Over time, strict laws against such people came into force in Britain, and this series of selling dead bodies ended. But even today, these graves are locked in cages. Reminds me of 200 years ago, when digging bodies from graves had become a common thing in Britain.